This is our final lesson. You guys have made it to the end of Module 4. We're going to make this lesson an interesting and informative one. I hope you guys are ready to end this module on a high note. You guys can be so proud of the time and effort you've put into this course. You can be proud of all the skills that you've gained and the insight that you now have when you look at different aspects of business. I know it was not easy studying and working, but you guys did it. You did an amazing job, and each and every one of you should be so proud of yourselves. So for today's lesson, last quote, winning is fun, sure, but winning is not the point. Wanting to win is the point. Not giving up is the point. Never letting up is the point. Never being satisfied with what you've done is the point. And with that, today we have our final lesson on scanning the environment. Today we're going to look at scanning the business environment, a pestle analysis, and how that can be used within the business. So let's start with the first section. According to Topper, the important factors of environment scanning is before scanning the environment, an organization must take the following actors into consideration. Events, these are the specific occurrences which take place in different environments within the business. We also have to look at trends. These will be things like coming up in our sector, coming up in our industry, or global trends and how they impact us. We also have to think of issues when scanning environments and also expectations from different parties and what they demand. So all of this leads into scanning the business environment. But what does this actually mean? Well, environment scanning is a business term used to help leaders survey the landscape of competitors, customers, and new innovation for products and services. One of the most essential roles a CEO will fulfill in a company is to stay current and to scan the horizon, pay attention to changes that are occurring within the company, within the industry, within the global market. Environment scanning allows the leader to move out of the point of view of the immediate day-to-day function and looking at the macro environment of the organization. The environment scanning process will move an organization from being reactive to being proactive, and that is your key word here. It is easy for companies to change with the market, but if you can spot the trends, if you can spot what is coming up, you can lead the change and be proactive. It is a lot better to be a leader in change than a follower of change. Although many business leaders have never conducted an environment scan, there are several ways of doing this. So today we're also going to look at Porter's 5 forces later up in this lesson, and that is a great way to look at your environment and also use the pestle analysis to look at what is going on. So what are the key elements when it comes to environment scanning? According to business.com, the 4 elements of environment scanning means staying alert and keeping watch of what is coming up in the marketplace and marketplace changes. Below are the 4 areas that CEOs and top company leaders use when they're looking at the business environment to improve the position of their current business. Examine the areas to become aware and be prepared for these changes. So if you're thinking of, well, this is only for CEOs, that's not true. Because we have to have innovative leaders in all positions, understanding what a CEO is doing, it means that you have a better understanding of how the company thinks and operates. And also, if you're gunning for a higher position within a company, this is a key skill that you will need to have to help your company go into a new direction, understand what is coming up, and you will have to lead this change. So first off is shifts. CEO and leaders should pay attention to early shifts of behavior and shifts in thinking. Leaders should help their teams by training them to pay attention to shift of what is happening around them. Leaders should conduct a scan of the changes of thinking about the value of your product and the way you do business. You can also think of how you are reviewing it, how your company is viewed within the culture and the community. Well-prepared CEOs should also prepare to be ready for change themselves. So scanning the environment not only prepares the employees and the company, but also you as a manager and a leader. Leaders will lead the future, understanding what is happening and being proactive. Another key element of environment scanning is starts. In business and in life, there's always something new that is happening. Changes often create a sense of urgency to act. In business, existing companies which pay attention to new things or starts in the marketplace. This scan can include new entrants into the marketplace, new developed products, services, new attitudes or desires from customers. So these starting points, these changes means that a company should look at these key starting points in order to understand what is coming up. So this might mean that a company is changing the way that they interact with their customers. And if customers like it, they will demand more of it. So, understanding where the company started, why they started, will mean that you understand the changes that are coming up for your own business. One example of a new start in fast food industry in the last couple of years is that of McDonald's, when they started offering a $1 menu. And because of this change, you could also see the other fast food companies making the same shift, understanding that they had to create a lower price menu in order to compete with McDonald's at that time. So here you can see the other companies looked at the start of McDonald's and because of this examined the need for the lower end menu and they created it as a response because they were scanning the environment. Every business leader should conduct a scan for new and better substitutes that when it comes to what your business is offering, either in products or in services. An old proverb states that there is nothing new under the sun. So no company or organization should feel that they have the one and only unique product. It is important for leaders and managers to identify what consumers want and the substitutes that they can get for your product or service. This can mean better quality, better prices, things that customers are more willing to pay for. It is important to understand the substitutes because it will have an impact on your business. As a result, you will have to change the way you currently do business to understand why the shift is needed. Next up, well-prepared leaders are the ones paying attention to the signs, which means that they are looking at different things within communities, cultures, consumer behavior, how other companies are reacting. So it is understanding that you have to keep an eye out for key signs of the market shifting, key signs of something new starting, key signs of substitutes coming into the market. So it's creating a mindset where you are always looking, always scanning, and always paying attention. Another place to notice signs is to pay attention to the stock market as a potential sign of how well the economy is doing and which types of industries are on the rise. With that, let's have a quick look at Porter's 5 Forces. So as we said, Porter's 5 Forces is a great way to conduct an environment scanning analysis. But if you've not heard of Porter's 5 Forces before, do not worry. I'm going to explain it with you guys and then we're going to look at an example. So here we have to look at threat of substitute products or services. Then the bargaining power of suppliers. We also have to look at the threats of new entrants, so new companies that will come into the market, the bargaining power of buyers, so our consumers, and the rivalry among existing competitors. According to Business News Daily, Porter theorized that understanding both the competitive forces at play and the overall industry structure are crucial for effective strategic decision-making and developing a compelling competitive strategy for the future. So Porter created this model so that business leaders can look into the full market and look at these different aspects and understand their current position of the company, what is coming up, and key strategies and opportunities that they can spot because they take the time to analyze all these aspects. Here we're going to apply Porter's 5 Forces to McDonald's. So as we said before, we have all the different elements and I'm going to explain how each one applies to McDonald's. According to Pan Moore, substitutes are a significant concern for McDonald's Corporation. This element of Porter's 5 Forces analyzes model deals with the potential effect of substitutes on the firm's growth. At McDonald's case, the following external factors make the threat of substitute a strong force. High substitutes are available, like KFC, Burger King. Low substitute costs, which means it is easy for the consumers to choose either or. And high performance to cost ratio of substitutes, which is a strong force for McDonald's. There are many substitutes to McDonald's products. Also, consumers can cook food at home, which means that McDonald's has to compete with a lot of substitutes and ensure that they have low cost items to allow for consumers to choose their product over others. Next, suppliers influence McDonald's in terms of the company's production capacity based on the availability of raw materials. This element of Porter's Five Forces shows the impact of suppliers on the firm, and in this case, the weak bargaining power of the supplier is based on the following external factors. The large population of suppliers weakens the effect of individual suppliers on McDonald's Corporation. This weakness is partially based on the lack of strong regional and global alliance among suppliers. In relation, most of McDonald's suppliers are not vertically integrated. This means that they do not control the distribution network that transports their products to firms like McDonald's. This means that the bargaining power of suppliers is weak when it comes to McDonald's. McDonald's can easily find different suppliers and therefore it will not influence them externally as much. New entrants can impact McDonald's market share and financial performance. This element of Porter's Five Forces refers to the effect of new players on existing firms. In McDonald's case, there's a moderate threat of new entrants is based on the following issues. Low switching costs, so like we said before, it's easier for customers to choose alternatives. So here we see the low switching cost allows consumers to easily move from McDonald's towards other fast food companies. This external factor strengthens the threat of new entrants. Also, variable capital costs of establishing a new restaurant empowers new businesses to enter the global fast food market really quickly. For example, small restaurant businesses involve low capital cost compared to major corporate markets. Then let's look at the bargaining power of buyers and consumers. McDonald's must address the power of customers on business performance. This element of Porter's Five Forces deals with the influence and demands of consumers and their decision and how it impacts the business. In McDonald's case, in the ease of changing from one restaurant to another, low switching cost enables consumers easily to impose their demands on McDonald's. In relation, because of the market saturation, consumers can choose from any fast food restaurant other than McDonald's. This condition makes the bargaining power of buyers a strong force in affecting the company's external environment. Finally, let's have a look at competitive rivalry or competition that McDonald's faces. McDonald's faces tough competition because the fast food industry is so saturated. So this element of Porter's Five Forces looks at the effects that the competition has on the environment of a company. In McDonald's case, it means that there are a high number of firms and the other competition is very, very aggressive. The fast food industry has many firms of various sizes and a lot of global chains. So just a quick recap. In terms of threats of substitutes, there is a strong force that McDonald's has to deal with. The bargaining power of suppliers is low, so McDonald's is fine with this point in their company model. But they have a moderate issue when it comes to threat of new entrants, so new companies joining the market. There is a high level of bargaining power of buyers and customers. This means that consumers will dictate the behavior that they want from McDonald's. And finally, there is a lot of competition that McDonald's has to face, and this really impacts their external environment. There you guys have it. So here we have Porter's Five Forces applied to McDonald's. Before we move on, I just want to have a quick did you know with you guys. The red and white Coca-Cola logo is recognized by 94% of the world's population. Walmart averages a profit of 1.8 million per hour. Google was originally called Backrub. Not the greatest name there, so lucky they changed it for us. Then Samsung accounts for 20% of Korea's gross domestic product. That is a huge amount that Samsung is contributing. So next up, we have the pestle analysis. So like we did before, we're going to explain what pestle is, and then we're going to apply it to an example. A pestle analysis is a framework to analyze the key factors. So these are factors that are external, things that the company cannot control. So this will be the political environment of the company that you're operating within, the economic state of the country and the globe, because if you have a large chain company like McDonald's, the economy in each country will differently impact them. The social impact, how the social standing of the country is, and how that impacts the changes within that market. We will look at technology and how that impacts the environment. And finally, the legal and environmental aspect of a market and how it influences an organization. So all of this influence an organization from outside. So these are things that the company cannot control, but you still have to understand why these things happen. So for example, if there's a new law passing, you have to understand what the law is, if it's going to impact your business, and if it is going to impact your business, what action do you need to take to prepare for it? That is why scanning the environment is so important. So like we said before, Porter's Five Forces looks at the external forces of a company, but a pestle looks at the broader aspect, the macro environment of what you are facing. So let's look at the different aspects, like we mentioned here, of what a pestle analysis is. So first off, you have to look at political factors. According to Business to You, these factors are all about how and to what degree a government intervenes in the economy or a certain industry. Basically, all the influences that a government has on your business could be classified here. This could include policies, political stability or instability, tax policies, labor law, environmental law, and trade restrictions. So next up, we have the economical factors. And here we look at the economic performance of a country. These factors include economic growth, the exchange rate, inflation rate, interest rates, disposable income of consumers, and the unemployment rate of the country in which you are operating. These factors may have a direct or indirect long-term impact on a company. And that is why it is so important to look at these aspects, because it's going to help you plan for the future. If you need to expand in a market or if you need to cut down in order to prepare for economic change. This dimension of general environment represents the demographic characteristics, the norms, the customs, and values of the population within which the organization operates. This includes population trends such as population growth rate, age, income distribution, careers, attitudes, education. So it helps you to fully understand your consumer, what they want, and the next generation coming up. Here we see these factors pertain to innovation in technology, and this may affect how you operate within your industry or your market, and this can be favorable or unfavorable. This refers to technology incentives and the level of innovation and automation. This helps companies look at the different options that they have and if they need to invest in upcoming trends, upcoming technology, upcoming innovation. Or if they don't, they will surely be lacking behind in the next couple of years. That is why scanning an environment for technology is so important, because it leaves your company behind if you do not invest in this certain area. Environmental factors may come in various forms. They have become increasingly important due to the increase of scarcity of raw products. It also looks at the carbon footprint and what governments want for you to be operating within their company. These factors include ecological and environmental aspects such as weather, climate, the environmental offset, and climate change, and how that will impact different industries such as tourism, farming, agriculture, insurance. And there is a lot to think of and understand when it comes to the environmental impact that a company has, and also the environmental impact that a country is facing. Furthermore, the environmental impact that our globe is facing. Then finally, our last part of pestle is our legal factors. Although these factors may have some overlapping with the political factors, they include specific laws like discrimination laws, employment laws, consumer protection laws, copyright and patent laws, health and safety laws. So it is important for your company to be clear. Therefore, each company should know the laws of the country that they are operating within. You need to understand what you need to comply with, how you can change and adapt. And like I said right at the beginning, if there is a new law coming up, you need to understand it, how it's going to impact your business, and how you can prepare for it. Therefore, understanding the entire pestle environment gives you an edge in business. But as a manager and a leader, it gives you the edge because you are leading the company. And if you understand this environment, you can take it back to your company leaders, you can be fully informed, and you are up to date. Okay, so now that you guys know the pestle elements, we're going to look at each factor individually and then key aspects that you need to consider and think of for each factor. So first off, we're going to look at political factors, government stability or instability, corruption levels in a country, tax policies, freedom of press, governmental regulations and deregulation, special tariffs, political action committees. So the reason is we need to look at the political stability of the country that we're operating within. For example, you have to understand the tax policies of the country that you're operating within, because it will impact how much tax you will pay, how you register for tax, and that will influence how much your company has to pay and therefore the profitability of your company. A lot of companies would rather set up shop in a third world country for their manufacturing rather than a developed country because of tax policies, how much they have to pay employees, and how much they're paying for resources. This is why they need to understand what they have to pay and the political environment which they are entering. Next up, we look at economic factors. These are things like the growth rate, interest rates, inflation rates, exchange rates, the availability of credit, the level of disposable income of consumers, and how much people are actually spending. So for example, if you are entering a country with low levels of disposable income, it will be extremely hard to enter that market because people don't have extra income to spend on luxury items. So if you want to enter that market, it will have to be essential goods, but it will also have to be at the price point where they can afford it. Therefore, it is so important to understand the economic factors that will impact your company. Also, if the economic environment is changing, it might be worth thinking of other countries to invest in. That is why a lot of companies will also shift their country in which they are operating to cut costs and to see which one gives them the most benefits in terms of the economic factors. Next, we see the social factors. These are things like population, size, and the growth rate, birth rates, death rates, number of marriages, number of divorces, immigration and emigration rates, and the life expectancy rate of consumers. All of this helps you to paint a picture of the type of consumers you have, the type of lifestyles they lead, and it will help you to better determine if this country is going to help you financially or not, if you purely look at it from a business point of view. Next, we are going to look at technology factors. These are technology incentives. If you take on new technologies, automation, what technology is available, and what process can you automate within that company. R&D activity, technological change, access to new technology, level of innovation, technological awareness, and the internet infrastructure. If you are a company that's high tech, you need a lot of internet, you need a lot of infrastructure in order to deliver your product or service. When you go to a less developed country, you will struggle because if they do not have the infrastructure and the innovation and the technology that you need for your company, you will not be able to operate there unless you bring all these factors with you. But that can cost a lot of money, and if you bring it with you, will it yield the same results? So you have to understand how technology impacts your company, and if you automate, for example, how that will impact your workforce. How many people will you lose in relation to how much will you make if you cut down on the amount of people that you employ? Next will be the environmental factors. Here it will be things like the weather, climate, environmental policies, climate change, pressure from NGOs, natural disasters, air and water pollution. So for example, if you are a farmer, it is very important to understand the weather conditions, what is coming up, how climate change is impacting your business, right? Because you have to produce produce in order to make money. So therefore, a farmer will look into the weather conditions, natural disasters, and how to protect his farm and his company from those issues. And a company will do the same in this environment. If you need raw materials and there are weather issues, how are you going to get those raw materials? Do you need to outsource, look to different countries, and how much will that cost? Therefore, you have to constantly scan the environment to understand what is happening at all levels of your company. Taking a step back, how will your suppliers be able to give you what you need? Looking one forward, how will you be able to produce your goods and provide that to your consumers? That is why scanning the environment is so intricate and interesting, but it is something that you have to keep an eye on. Finally, we have to look at the legal factors, and these are things like discrimination laws, antitrust laws, employment laws, consumer protection laws, copyright and patent laws, health and safety laws. So these are the laws that will impact how you conduct your business. If you are employing employees, you need to look at the employment laws of that country. You need to understand the copyright and patent laws of your product or service. When it comes to producing and delivering that product or service, you also need to think of the health and safety laws in order to protect your consumers and your employees. So there we have it. That is the pestle analysis and the different factors that influences it. I hope you guys had an amazing lesson. I hope you found this lesson extremely insightful and that you know a lot more when it comes to scanning your business environment. Please check out your summary notes in order to see more examples and factors when it comes to scanning your environment. So as this lesson comes to an end, you might be wondering what's next. So, I recommend checking out our other business courses. We have a host of other skills that you can add to your leadership and management diploma. I hope to see you guys around in the upcoming mini MBA course that I will be hosting. Thank you all, and I hope you've enjoyed this journey and that you found it empowering. It has been my pleasure hosting this series, and I hope to connect with you all. Please add me on LinkedIn if you have not already in order for us to stay in touch. Good luck going forward, and I hope you find all the success in the world. Thank you all and have a good day.